but you all have little pencils. Just try not to get them in my eyes. I like to see. I went to grad school at a school called St. Reinhart School of Theology, and I felt the Lord calling me out to consider marriage, to discern the vocation of marriage, so I made this step. Father Mike, the pastor here, has been a friend of mine for a while. He was at my high school, actually. He taught me. Actually, he didn't teach me religion, but he substituted a few times. She's up there. But I'm going to bore you with the rest of my story. So it was March of 2009, last March. I was here talking to him and telling him my story, why I felt I should leave the seminary. And the same night he offered me a job here. So it was the worst economy in the history of my life, which isn't that long. I'm only 24 now. And 2 months before leaving school, I already had a job lined up to come here. I wasn't very sure what I had to offer to the campus here, but this is my second year on staff. I'm the campus minister, and hopefully I won't ruin anybody's minds tonight. It's too late. So here at Veritas, what are the three pieces to our slogan?
Seek, find, live.
Seek, find, and dance. Have you guys ever watched Dancing with the Stars?
Yes.
Well, there's one of two things that are going to happen at the end of this presentation that you need to stay tuned for. Either I'm going to dance or kitten massage. Kitten massage. Brace yourselves. Kitten massage. You're going to find out. If you don't stay, you won't find out. So seek, find, and live. We're talking about prudence. How many people, by show of hands or round of applause, know what prudence is? So 60% of us, okay? So I'm not going to assume anything here. I'm going to start off and try to uncover every rock along the pathway just to understand what prudence is. Prudence is kind of boring. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a piece of philosophy. It's kind of technical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you YouTube videos and tell you embarrassing stories about me. And hopefully you don't want to leave. I can scream for you guys too. If I need filler at the end, I'll scream for you guys. I can scream like it's all here. You want to see the video?
Please don't.
Okay, so we're going to seek, we're going to find, we're going to live. First, we need to seek prudence. We need to seek what does this word mean? What is prudence? We have some terms that we use kind of day to day in our country that are similar to prudence or get at the idea of prudence. But when you first hear that word prudence, what rings in your mind? What's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Philosophy.
Okay, Jay.
Wisdom.
Wisdom. That's good. Anybody else? Approve? Somebody say approve. Yeah, approve. What's approve?
No, it doesn't taste fruit.
Oh, prune? Prudence, prune? Prunes are disgusting. Grapes are good, raisins are good. Plums are good, but prunes aren't good. What's up with that? No, but I thought she said prude. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind is prude. What's a prude? Who do we call a prude? That's a short form of the word prudence. You have to participate. Jay, are you giving an answer? That's it. Goody good. So, yeah. I think so. I've been called a prude before. Were you all here last week? My friend from college, Andrew Pasternak, was here. And I told you guys the story. They called me the no fun zone in college because I really valued prudence. And so whenever anybody wanted to have any fun, I would try to stop it because I thought it was imprudent. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, when we hear the word prudence, we automatically think, the first word that comes to my mind is repressed. The person's repressed. Like, whenever they want to do anything, they just think about it to the point where they don't do it. They just take every one of their desires, every one of their whims, every one of their longings, and they stuff it down in fear that they might do the wrong thing. Have any of you guys ever got that sense? And oftentimes I think our culture characterizes Christians as being prudes, as being repressed, as being kind of about all these rules, and then kind of opposed to what the psychological sciences tell us about being kind of liberated and, I don't know, egocentric. I don't know what they say. But feeling good about yourself, self-esteem, just following your desires. Do you guys mind if I take off my sandals? I feel you're sweating.
As long as you don't make me smell your skin.
Okay, if you can smell my feet, tell me, I'll put it right. I don't know if it's your experience, but the message that I've gotten from our culture in my life is kind of do what feels good. Would anybody disagree with that? Do what feels good. Has anybody not got that message? So, I had about a 4-month phase where I had this obsession with a show called The Real World. Anybody ever have that? I would sit in my house, and like every Saturday they'd have a marathon of like Real World 1 through 3, the challenges, and I would just watch. And the one thing that I realized after a while was these people just do whatever the heck they want. Like they don't even think before they make choices. They feel like going out and partying, or they feel like having sex with another person in the house. They just do it. And they don't think, oh, I'm going to have to live with this person for like 4 more months and deal with the emotions in this relationship and have to face them and everything else that could happen. They just did what they felt like. And we can get a message at times that this is how we should live. Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. I know you like my voice. Listen to your heart. Or, did anybody ever go to their school counselor in high school? Okay. I did. And what my school counselor told me was, well, you'll know what's right. She just said, you'll know what's right. And I was looking for some kind of advice, some kind of direction in my life. And she said, you'll know what's right. As if like I'll have this magical sense when the time is right. It'll just make sense. And the stars will align, and then the pathway will open for me to walk across. What she was really leading me to do was just going to do what I felt like, right? And this takes us in all kinds of bad places, all kinds of directions. Prudence is first and foremost a virtue. A virtue. Can anybody give me a definition of virtue to work with? Who hasn't said anything yet? Jasmine?
A good habit.
A good habit. Okay, perfect. You read the sheet here? We're on the sheet now. I'm going to use a few terms, and so I wanted to put them up here just so you could look at them. If I said them too fast, we could pick that up. A virtue is a good habit. We've lost a sense of virtue in our world a lot of times. We have this idea of value. Has anybody ever heard the term family values? Like we have our family values. Son, if you're a Reinhart, this is how you behave because you're a Reinhart. These are our family values. But values are kind of subjective. Everybody can have different values. What I value is what I'm attracted to, what I like. I really value combos and Miles Pizza. I don't really value sleep. I got like 4 hours last night. I don't even care. But I value my coffee. Because that makes me feel better. Because I don't value my sleep. But you all have different values, right? But there's this idea of virtue. There were these really smart guys that lived a few hundred years before Christ, philosophers. One of them was named Plato, and the other one was named Aristotle. How many of you have had an introduction to philosophy class? Yeah. So you probably heard these names and forgot. 100 years before Christ, they came up with ethics or rules for how we should behave and how we should act. And they based them on virtues. And all they did was they simply looked at the world and said, what's good? When we do these things, what leads us to flourishing and happiness, and what ultimately leads us away from flourishing and happiness. And it's amazing what they came up with, because it's really similar to what's in the Gospels. In fact, 1,200 years after Christ, there's this man named St. Thomas Aquinas. He basically took what Aristotle said in his Nicomachean Ethics and applied it to Christianity. And the virtues more or less fell exactly in line with the Gospels. And so when I'm talking about virtue, I'm not just saying, like, this is what the Bible tells us to do, and so you should do it. Or just, this just makes sense, like it's apparent. No. But I'm saying both. I'm saying this is good common sense. If you really think about it, this just works, and it will make you happy. But also, that if you believe, and if you think Christ is someone that you want to have in your life, I don't want to suppose anything, that He's going to be telling you to live your life the same way, according to these virtues. Dad had the perfect, short, good definition. A virtue is a good habit. A habit means you do it a lot, and you get used to doing it, and then it becomes easier to do it. Right? If I go to bed at the same time every day and wake up at the same time every day, that's just natural. It becomes a habit. If I brush my teeth when I wake up and when I go to bed, it becomes a habit. Not all habits are good, though, right? There are some habits that are bad, and we call those vices. We have, the ancients came up with 4 cardinal virtues, and they'll be up here in a second. The cardinal virtues, they're temperance, fortitude, justice, and prudence. These are 4 cardinal virtues. And there's opposing vices. There's intemperance and cowardice, injustice and imprudence. What the virtues actually do is they regulate our passions and they regulate our feelings. So we have these values in us, these movements, these drawings, these longings, these clingings, right? I see that bag of combos and I want to eat every single last one of them and then dump the crumbs out into my mouth. But after I've had 3 meals and some Dairy Queen, I shouldn't eat the whole bag of combos in spite of my desire. So we have this great virtue called temperance. Temperance regulates our use of things, or any pleasure, any drawing. So food and sleep and rest and sex. Courage regulates our fear. I'm going to be in situations where I don't want to face the fact. I don't want to go into that exam. I don't want to do my driver's test. I don't want to, tell that girl I really like that I actually like her. I don't want to stand up for my faith in between classes or in my philosophy class. But courage regulates that fear and enables you to step forward. Injustice regulates our relationships, both with other people and with the society as a whole. So justice says, I had this great friend when I was younger. I thought he was a great friend. And I realized after a while, though, that I just went over to his house to play this game called Sim Farm. He had this computer, which was a big deal when I was little. We had this game called Sim Farm. And I realized that because one day I went over to his house and played Sim Farm, and he wasn't even there. And his dad walked up to me and was like, "What are you doing in my house?" I'm playing Sim Farm. He's like, "No, you're not leaving." And I realized that's injustice. I wasn't just using him for Sim Farm. I went over there because I like to play Sim Farm. We don't talk anymore. Every one of our actions has both means and ends. Those are fancy words for meaning that every time we do anything, we do it for a reason. We're trying to get somewhere or do something. And we do it in a certain way. So I'm going to give a speech. And my end is to give a good speech. So my means to give you a good speech is to prepare myself to think of what I'm going to say, write it out, have a nice little handy-dandy visual aid. These other 3 cardinal virtues